The person that I'm about to bring on a year ago wasn't even in the money-making game. This person was living in Colorado doing a volunteer missionary trip and wasn't even thinking about where he was going to make his next dollar. So he actually works with my dad full-time. They're literally everything that you would think of with a farm, all of it, right? Like moving pipes, cutting hay, sitting on the tractor. And then there's stuff that you don't even know that really sucks, like cleaning out the shed and organizing the tools and greasing the machinery. So how much sales experience do you have?
Zero. I literally have zero sales experience.
I went and did door to door. My other little brother, I convinced him to do it for a year. Porter, who we're talking to here, has zero sales experience. None. We're not talking to somebody who is like a financial genius that like does stock manipulation and writes algorithms. The point is, we're average people. Porter's farming. I started getting into sales and he's still going to be able to do that. So let's get into the deal, dude. This is a really cool story. So first of all, tell them about the deal. How much was it? What niche? How many leads? Just give us a little synopsis of the deal.
So it was $375 a week. So $1,500 a month. I sent him like four jobs, and these jobs, the reason I sent him four, I probably could have closed them on earlier, but the reason I sent him another one, I was only going to send him like 2 or 3, was because some of them were a little bit older. So I just wanted to make sure that I solidified this deal, because I was
older
like,
leads? What do you mean by older?
They were sitting there for like a couple, like I had to dig them up. They were kind of anxious. So they were just a little bit older leads. But yeah, it was like $1,500. And what's funny is when I called this business owner, I did my whole list. I had 10 guys. I called through all 10 of them, and not one of them was interested. And I was kind of anxious, because I was like, oh my gosh, these calls are coming in. I'm spending money on these ads, and I'm nervous, because I'm like, I don't have money just growing coming out of my pockets. Like, I need to be able to put it somewhere. So I was kind of nervous. So one day I just was like, I'm just going to call through the people that didn't answer, or maybe that were kind of iffy. So I called the number one guy again. His name was Nestor, and I hooked him twice. The first time he agreed, and then the second time around, like before that, he ghosted me. So I recalled him, and then I sent him a few jobs, and then I got him on a Zoom call.
So the guy that you ended up selling was somebody that you had talked to the first time, and he was like, yeah. Then he ghosted you.
Yeah, and he's kind of an old school guy. I think he low-key thought it was a scam, because it sounded like, it sounds so good. Like when I first heard it, I was like, there's no way.
Like, dude, there's a lesson right there in that, is like, guys, how many times have you gone through your list of people, and because they said no, you never went back, and you're like, well, that area is burned. You know how many times I've gotten a message from somebody that's like, oh, I called all the business owners on my list, they said no. Ask them again. Guys, just because somebody said no the first time, if you call a month later, you might get a completely different response. You call 6 months later, you might get a completely different response. Well, I have a client right now, his name's Jason. I called him in 2018 and I pitched him, and he said, hey bro, let's do it. And I sent him leads, right? And he said, okay, let's do it. And then guess what? At the very end, he said, bro, I can't do this. I'm going through a divorce, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And we separated ways. Guess what? 9 months later, as I went back, I'm like, dude, I gotta find somebody for that site. Guess what I did? I called Jason, divorce finalized. He didn't need to hide money anymore. You know how people get all weird and they don't want to make any money, so give it to their partner. And he's like, let's do the deal. We did $1,000 a month deal, and we've been working together ever since, right? That's been 3-4 years. Just because somebody says no once does not freaking mean that it's a no forever. So anyway, it's just like a side tangent. So you called Nestor, you sent him a couple older leads, you sent him a couple fresh leads, and it's how much you say, $1,200 or 15? What was your cost per click on this deal?
It was like $3.50. That was like my average on them.
He's got a $1,500. That's how much the business owner's paying him. He's going to be spending $20 a day if he wants to, which is $600 a month. But guess what? Because his cost per click is so low, he's probably only going to have to spend $15 a day, and he's probably going to net over $1,000 from day one. If he never ranks the website, if he never does a Google My Business, he's going to net $1,000 per month. He gave himself a $12,000 raise by getting this one deal. So you send him 4 leads, and then tell him what happened.
I was watching Nick's videos like crazy, and just really trying to utilize everything. Like, he was telling me about the whole pie analogy, where like you can have all the ingredients, and the more ingredients that you can have in the deal, like you're more chance of you close it. So I was like studying this thing like a hawk. So I had like notes written down every day. I text him a certain thing, like kind of giving a little pullback, and letting him know I had other options. So I was doing that, and I remember I was trying to get him as a desktop, and so or just a computer computer, and I wanted him to be able to do it in the morning. And so
He's talking about the Zoom close. He's trying to do everything by the book, and this is what happens.
So everything by the book. So I call him one day and I'm like, hey Nestor, like, can you make sure you're on a desktop, and can you make sure that it's can we try to do it in the morning before work? Can you be at like a desk? Cause I wanted him to mean like, I want it to mean business, right? So I tell him all these things. So first of all, he doesn't own a laptop. He has a phone. He doesn't have a desk. Perfect. And he lives in Florida, and I had to wake up at like 2 because I was so nervous because I couldn't sleep the night before because I wanted this deal so bad. And my Zoom call was at 4:30. I woke up at like 2, was like studying everything until then, and then hopped on the Zoom close at 4:30. So it was crazy.
So the only time he could do it was before work.
You mentioned that you should do it before work or usually later in the evening, and every time that I tried to talk to him at night, he was just smoked. Because it was concrete. I was doing a concrete guy. So he was smoked at night. So I was like, I'm just gonna do it in the morning just to make sure. So I just chose in the morning instead.
So you ran the call at 4 a.m. and he ends up getting the deal for $1,500. But guys, the reason I wanted to tell you that story is because ask yourself this rhetorically: how many of you would be willing to wake up at 4 a.m. to get a deal? Or how many of you would go, well, I'll just do it on Monday, and you lose the deal? Like, if you're not, then that's fine, but just don't complain when you don't have money.